It wasn't a demand problem. A luxury retail empire just filed for bankruptcy protection, while wealthy shoppers kept spending. But the game-changing twist didn't come from empty stores. It came from timing, debt, and a $2.7 billion acquisition at the peak of high interest rates. In luxury retail, perception often moves far faster than cash. Here's what really happened behind the headlines. The idea behind Saks Global was simple, on paper, at least. Take 3 legendary department stores, each with its own loyal following, and fuse them into one corporate giant. Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman, all under a single umbrella, sharing the same boardroom, the same back-end systems, and most importantly, the same pool of money. This wasn't just about scale, it was about negotiating power. When you are the biggest customer, you get first pick from luxury brands and better terms from landlords. But there is a catch. Combine the risk, and you combine the fallout. Suddenly, a problem with one brand does not stay in its lane. If a vendor tightens terms on Neiman, Saks and Bergdorf feel it too. If a landlord pushes back on a lease in Chicago, it ripples across the whole group's financials. The same overlap that promised efficiency also meant that a single shock, for example, a spike in interest rates or a hiccup in vendor payments, would hit every corner of the empire at once. In the world of luxury, confidence is currency. When cracks appear, they don't just spread, they multiply. Underneath the glossy storefronts, the real risk wasn't about whether shoppers would show up. It was about whether the new, supersized Saks could keep all its plates spinning with the same cash, and whether its vendors and landlords would keep playing along when the music changed. December 2024 brought the kind of deal that gets investment bankers grinning and credit analysts reaching for the antacids. Saks Global paid nearly $2.7 billion to scoop up Neiman Marcus, betting that bigger meant stronger in the luxury world. But this was not a cash purchase. To pull it off, Saks stacked on layers of debt, senior loans, high-yield bonds, even a bridge loan for good measure. Overnight, the company's debt ballooned from $3.2 billion to $5.9 billion. That pushed the debt-to-earnings ratio to 5.6 times, a number that would make most chief financial officers sweat through their silk ties. The problem? This mountain of debt did not come cheap. The Federal Reserve kept interest rates above 5.25%, and the cost of borrowing soared. About 15% of Saks Global's new debt was tied to floating rates, linked directly to SOFR, a benchmark that climbed to 5.4% by the third quarter of 2025. Each uptick meant millions more in interest payments, draining cash that might have gone to inventory or store upgrades. While Saks Global promised $1.5 billion in new revenue over 3 years, the clock on those so-called synergies ticked much slower than the monthly debt bill. The math was simple. Pay up now, hope the future arrives fast enough. But in a high-rate world, hope is not a hedge. Debt, in theory, is just a tool, a way to buy time and opportunity. But at 5.6 times earnings, Saks Global's balance sheet stopped looking like a ladder and started feeling more like a tightrope strung over a canyon. Every month, millions in interest had to be paid before a single dress hit the racks. The company's finance team now faced a brutal trade-off: pay lenders or pay for the next season's inventory, with rates locked above 5.25% and a chunk of debt floating with SOFR. The cost of borrowing grew faster than the revenue synergies could ever hope to catch up. Cash that should have gone to replenishing top-selling handbags or keeping flagship stores fresh was siphoned off to service loans. What looked like a fortress of luxury brands was, underneath, a cash flow squeeze play. When leverage is this high, certainty is a myth. One hiccup, and the whole operation starts to wobble. The real risk was not whether customers wanted to shop. It was whether Saks Global could keep shelves stocked and vendors paid before the next interest bill came due. Luxury retail bankruptcy stories always come with a ready-made villain. The favorite is myth number 1: shoppers stop buying. But the numbers tell a different story. Global luxury sales actually grew 4.2% in 2024, and Saks Global's own online traffic jumped 12%. Even as headlines screamed collapse, the average order value was rising, not shrinking. If demand had truly dried up, you would expect tumbleweeds in the shoe department. Instead, the real drama was backstage, where the cash register's ring did not always make it to the bank account in time for the next interest bill. Here's another crowd pleaser. That giant Neiman Marcus deal was not quite the iceberg, and Saks Global was not simply the Titanic. It is catchy, but not quite right. The $2.7 billion acquisition did pile on debt, but rival luxury groups took on big deals too, and walked away intact. The difference was in the wiring. Saks loaded up on floating rate, high-yield debt, then locked itself into tight covenants. When interest rates soared, it was like trying to swim with a suitcase full of bricks. And then there is the classic myth. No one saw it coming. In reality, warning signs flashed for months. Internal memos from April 2025 flagged liquidity stress. Vendor letters demanded faster payments by June, and by July, the board was openly discussing restructuring. When the missed interest payment landed, it was not a lightning bolt. It was the last domino in a chain everyone inside the company had been watching tip over. The myths are neat, but the facts are messier and much more revealing. By the summer of 2025, the warning lights were not just blinking inside the finance office, they were flashing out on the sales floor. Top suppliers, tired of waiting nearly 2 months for payment, started sending blunt emails. Pay us in 10 days, or do not expect the next shipment. One message from a major accessories vendor, dated June 14th, cut straight to the point. Net 45 was over, net 10 was now the rule. If Saks Global did not wire funds up front, the season's hottest bags would find a new home somewhere else. For the first time, store managers noticed gaps on shelves that were not just a creative choice. Inventory, which had averaged $1.2 billion the year before, slid to $820 million by the third quarter. That's a 31% drop, and not the kind you can hide with clever lighting or a few extra mannequins. The company's days sales outstanding, a fancy way of measuring how long it takes to pay suppliers, stretched from 45 to 58 days. Every extra day was a red flag for vendors who knew exactly how to read the tea leaves. Inside the buying department, the mood turned anxious. The best-selling stock-keeping units, known as SKUs, especially in designer handbags and ready-to-wear, started disappearing from the replenishment lists. Some suppliers quietly cut allocations, worried they would never see their money. One vendor said it bluntly, "We are not a bank. If Saks cannot pay, we will just stop shipping." The result? A slow-motion squeeze. Shoppers might not notice at first, but the real insiders, vendors, buyers, and a few eagle-eyed regulars could sense something was off. In the luxury business, confidence is everything, and when the supply chain starts to flinch, the spiral is already underway. July 15, 2025, Saks Global missed a $12.5 million interest payment, just one coupon, but the effect was instant. The bond trustee flagged the breach. Within hours, the cross-default clause kicked in, and suddenly the entire $1.1 billion senior loan came due all at once. There was no hiding it anymore. For months, the stress had been private. Vendors grumbling, store shelves thinning, finance teams sweating over spreadsheets. Now, the crisis was public. Board minutes from July 20th show a scramble for options: raise $2 billion in new equity, cut a deal with creditors, or pull the Chapter 11 trigger. Bankruptcy counsel, Brown & Brown LLP, put it bluntly. The company was out of moves. The missed payment didn't just start a clock, it set off a fire alarm. In the world of high-stakes retail, a single default can turn a slow-motion squeeze into a sprint for survival. The filing landed in early January 2026, but the real bankruptcy started the moment the coupon went unpaid. Bankruptcy for Saks Global did not mean shuttered doors overnight. Instead, survival depended on one point: $1.75 billion in emergency financing, anchored by a $1 billion debtor in possession loan from hedge funds. This debtor in possession loan allowed stores to keep running, employees to stay on payroll, and shelves to be restocked, even as bankruptcy proceedings unfolded. The debtor in possession lenders moved to the front of the repayment line, while another $750 million in asset-backed loans and bondholder support helped stabilize daily operations. For the roughly 17,000 employees, uncertainty became routine, wondering if paychecks would clear or if new merchandise would arrive. Each billion-dollar deal masked a scramble among creditors, senior lenders, landlords, vendors, and pension funds, all calculating their odds. In these moments, confidence itself became a kind of currency. The mechanics of survival were stark. Would vendors keep shipping? Would workers keep showing up? And could the brand still claim its place in the luxury world? Today, luxury's real fault line isn't demand, it's confidence, inventory flow, and vendor trust. When the music stops, the first sign isn't fewer shoppers, it's brands quietly shipping elsewhere. In high-end retail, the next collapse may not start at the front door, it will start in the stockroom. What do you think?